I'm looking at Chris's bandaged form through the ICU window when my phone buzzes. It's my mom. How is he today? You holding up okay, sweetie? I'm holding up fine, actually. That's the problem. Chris is in there, sedated, his right arm completely wrapped in white gauze that needs changing every 6 hours. Third-degree burns from wrist to shoulder. His back looks like something from a horror movie. That's what the nurse told me yesterday when they did the dressing change. I couldn't watch. His face, the right side of his beautiful face, red and blistered and wrong. He got those burns running into our burning house 3 times while I stood in the yard screaming for him to stop. The first time, he came out with my grandmother's engagement ring, the one I'd left on the bathroom counter because I was too scared to wear it to work, too terrified I'd lose it while changing gloves between patients. The second time, he emerged with our photo albums, the leather covers already smoking. And the third time, the third fucking time, he went back for Baxter. Our dog was already dead, smoke inhalation. The firefighters told us later there was nothing anyone could do. But Chris didn't know that. He just heard me sobbing about Baxter and he ran back in. That's when the beam fell on his arm, when the superheated air scorched his back, when a firefighter had to physically drag him out while his skin was literally burning. That was 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks of surgeries and skin grafts and infection scares. 3 weeks of watching the man I love, the man who bought us that house, renovated it with his own hands, picked out the paint colors with me, installed the kitchen backsplash I'd obsessed over for months, reduced to this unconscious form that smells like antiseptic and burned flesh. 3 weeks of knowing it was my curling iron that started the fire. I left it plugged in the attic bathroom, in an outlet Chris had specifically told me was probably outdated, that he'd get to rewiring once he finished the kitchen. But I was running late for drinks with Sarah, and I just left it, plugged in an outlet that couldn't handle it. The fire investigator explained it to me last week. Faulty wiring, he said. The outlet overloaded. The wall behind it caught first, then spread to the attic insulation. By the time the smoke detector woke us at 2 a.m., the entire attic was engulfed. It's not your fault, Ryan Torres had said, looking at me with these kind, professional eyes. Equipment fails. Old houses have old wiring. These things happen. But they don't just happen. I made them happen. Chris stirs now, his left hand, the undamaged one, twitching. I go inside, sit in the chair I've occupied for 18 hours a day, and take his hand. His eyes flutter open. The left one is clear and brown and familiar. The right one is swollen, the lid red and angry. Hey, he whispers through cracked lips. Hey. I squeeze his hand. How's the pain? Manageable. It's not. I can see it in the tension around his mouth. What day is it? February 4th, Tuesday. He processes this. 3 weeks in the burn unit can make you lose time. Baxter? My throat closes. We've had this conversation 4 times. The sedation makes him forget. He didn't make it, baby. I'm so sorry. Chris's eyes fill with tears. I tried. I got to him, but he wasn't moving. I should have gotten there faster. Chris, no. You shouldn't have gone back at all. He was your dog. You loved him. His voice cracks. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm crying now, ugly crying, because he's apologizing. He's lying here with 38% of his body burned, facing months of recovery, possible permanent disability in his right arm, and he's apologizing to me. Please don't, I manage. Please. You have nothing to be sorry for. He tries to smile. It looks like agony. Love you. I love you too. His eyes close again. The morphine drip pulls him back under. I sit there holding his hand, looking at his wrapped arm, his bandaged face, his broken body, and I feel the love. I do. But underneath it, there's something else. Something I don't want to name. Something that whispers, "You're 24 years old. This is your life now." Caregiver, nurse, reminder of his sacrifice and your guilt. This is what the next year looks like. Maybe longer. I hate that voice. I hate that it exists. But it's there. Let me tell you how I became the person who would eventually betray a man who ran into a burning building for her. 3 times. I met Chris when I was 19. I was working at a coffee shop in Northwest Portland, trying to figure out if I wanted to go back to community college or just work full time. Chris came in every morning at 6:30, ordered a large black coffee and a blueberry muffin, and sat in the corner doing paperwork. He had these incredible forearms, carpenter's arms I'd learn later, and this quiet confidence that made him seem older than 24. It took him 3 weeks to ask me out. When he did, it was straightforward. "I'd like to take you to dinner sometime. Would you be interested in that?" No games, no pickup lines, just honest interest. Our first date was at a Thai restaurant in the Hawthorne district. He told me about his carpentry business. He'd been working for a contractor for 5 years, was saving up to start his own company. He asked about my life with genuine curiosity. He listened when I talked about not knowing what I wanted to do, about feeling behind because I hadn't finished college, about my family's expectations. "You're 19, he said. "You're not supposed to have it all figured out yet." He made me feel like it was okay to still be finding myself. We were together 5 years, good years. He supported me when I decided to go back to school for dental hygiene, celebrated when I got my license, encouraged me when I was nervous about my first real job. He built his business slowly, carefully. By the time I was 23 and he was 28, he was making decent money, and we were talking about buying a house. "Not just any house," he said one night in our apartment, lying in bed with his tablet, scrolling through listings. "Something with character, something we can make ours." He found the bungalow in March. It was a 1920s craftsman in the Alberta Arts District, 1,400 square feet, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and an attic that could be converted to a master suite. It needed work, a lot of work. The kitchen was straight out of 1987. The bathroom had pink tile. The hardwood floors were scratched and water damaged. "It's perfect," Chris said, walking through it with his contractor's eye, seeing possibilities I couldn't imagine. "Look at these original moldings, the built-in shelving. The bones of this place are solid." We offered $485,000. Got it for $475,000 after inspection revealed the roof needed a replacement. Chris's eyes lit up like Christmas. "We're going to make this place an amazing Jen." And he did. We did, I thought at the time, but really it was him. I picked out paint colors and light fixtures. He did everything else. Refinished the floors himself, gutted and rebuilt the kitchen, retiled the bathroom, converted the attic into a master suite with a bathroom that had this beautiful walk-in shower and vintage-style fixtures. "For you," he said when he showed me the completed bathroom. I know you wanted somewhere to get ready in the morning without waking me up. He'd even installed an outlet near the mirror for my hair tools. That outlet. We moved in last May. 8 months of living in our dream house. 8 months of Chris coming home dusty from job sites, of me practicing my dental hygiene techniques on him, of Baxter, the German Shepherd mix we'd adopted, sprawled across our refinished floors. 8 months of talking about marriage, about whether to have the wedding at Chris's family's property in Hood River or somewhere in the city. 8 months of normal, beautiful, boring happiness. And then January 14th. I woke up to the smoke detector screaming. It was 2:07 a.m. I know because I looked at my phone instinctively, confused, thinking it was my alarm. Then I smelled it. Acrid, chemical, wrong. Chris, I shook him. Chris, wake up. Something's burning. He was up instantly, the way he always was in emergencies, alert, focused. He went to the bedroom door, touched it. It's warm. Fuck. Jen, get your shoes on, now. I did, hands shaking while he grabbed his phone and called 911. The smoke was getting thicker. I could hear something crackling above us. The attic. Yes, 3247 Northeast 22nd Avenue. House fire. We're evacuating now. He grabbed my arm. Come on. We got downstairs. The living room was filling with smoke. I could see an orange glow from the stairway that led to the attic. Chris pulled me to the front door, unlocked it, shoved it open. Go. Get to the street. Baxter? I'll get him. Go. I went. I ran across our yard to the sidewalk, barefoot despite the shoes I'd put on, in just the t-shirt and underwear I'd worn to bed. I could hear sirens. Neighbors were coming out of their houses. Chris emerged 30 seconds later with Baxter on a leash, the dog confused and whining. He got us both to the sidewalk, then looked back at the house. The upstairs window was glowing. Smoke poured from the attic vent. Fuck, he breathed. Then, your grandmother's ring. Jen, your grandmother's ring is in there. Chris, no. He was already running, back across the yard, through the front door, into the smoke. I screamed, actually screamed. A neighbor, Tom from 2 doors down, grabbed my arm. The firefighters are coming. He needs to stay out. But Chris was already coming back, emerging from the smoke, coughing, his t-shirt pulled over his nose. In his hand, the small velvet box that held my grandmother's 1940s engagement ring, the one my mother had given me when she died. Got it, he gasped, pressing it into my hand. That's when he looked at the house again and his face went white. The albums. Jesus, Jen, all our photos. Chris, please. But he was running again, back into the house that was actively burning. The fire trucks were rounding the corner. I was screaming his name. Tom was trying to hold me back. And Chris was in there, in our living room, where we'd watched movies and played with Baxter and talked about our future, yanking our photo albums off the bookshelf. He came out again. The albums were smoking. His arms were covered in soot. That's when I started sobbing. Baxter! Where's Baxter? We both looked. The dog wasn't next to me. He'd pulled away in the chaos, run back toward the house. No, I cried. No, 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 Baxter! Chris's eyes went to the house. The firefighters were pulling up. I saw him calculate. Chris, don't you fucking dare. He ran. The third time. I was screaming, fighting against Tom's arms as firefighters poured out of the truck. One of them ran after Chris. I heard shouting, and then I heard the crash. Later, they told me it was a beam in the attic floor. It collapsed, fell through to the second floor, and landed on Chris's arm as he was carrying Baxter's body out of the downstairs. Baxter, who was already dead. The firefighter dragged them both out. I saw Chris's face, agonized, shocked. His arm, where his t shirt sleeve had burned away, was red and blistering. His back, where his shirt had been burned through by superheated air, looked raw. Baxter, I sobbed, dropping to my knees next to the dog. He wasn't breathing. Chris had risked everything for nothing. Chris looked at me with those brown eyes, clarity fading as shock set in, and whispered, "I'm sorry." I tried. Then the paramedics were there, loading him into the ambulance, and I was climbing in after him, and our house was burning behind us, and nothing was ever going to be the same. The first week in the burn unit was surreal. They took Chris straight into surgery when we arrived at OHSU. I sat in the waiting room for 6 hours while they debrided the burns, removed the dead tissue, I learned, a phrase that made me want to vomit, and assess the damage. The doctor who came out looked exhausted. "You're his fiancée?" "Girlfriend, 5 years." "He's stable. The burns are extensive but survivable. Third-degree burns on his right arm from wrist to shoulder. Second and third-degree burns across his upper back. Second-degree burns on the right side of his face and neck. That's approximately 38% of his body." I couldn't speak. "We'll need to do skin grafts, multiple surgeries over the coming weeks. He'll be in the ICU for at least 10 days, then move to the burn unit for extended care. Recovery will be lengthy and painful. There may be permanent loss of function in the right arm, depending on how the grafts take and how much nerve damage there is. Will his face? There will be significant scarring. We'll do everything we can to minimize it, but burns of this severity don't heal without leaving marks." Chris, with his handsome carpenter's face, his easy smile, scarred permanently. Because of me, because of my carelessness. I spent that first week barely leaving the hospital. My boss at the dental office was understanding. "Take all the time you need." And my family came up from Eugene to sit with me. Chris's parents flew in from Arizona. His brother drove down from Seattle. Everyone kept saying the same thing. "Thank God you're both alive. Houses can be rebuilt." But could Chris? The first time they changed his bandages in front of me, I had to leave the room. The smell, antiseptic mixed with something organic and wrong, made me gag. The sight of his arm, red and raw and nothing like skin should look, made my vision tunnel. A nurse found me in the bathroom, hyperventilating. "It's okay to be scared," she said gently. "This is traumatic, but he needs you to be strong." I tried. I really did. I sat by his bed every day. I held his good hand. I read to him when he was conscious. Talked about anything but the fire. His business, his employees were handling the current jobs, but how long could that last? "Our house, condemned," the fire investigator said. "The insurance process would take months. Where would we live when he got out?" I tried to focus on the small victories. He kept the arm. That was something. No amputation. The skin grafts were taking. His face, while scarred, was healing. The doctors were optimistic about his long-term recovery. But long-term meant months, maybe a year. Physical therapy, occupational therapy, psychological counseling. And Chris, my capable, confident, fix-anything Chris, couldn't button his own shirt. I was sitting beside him in week 2 when he woke up and tried to use his right arm. Just tried to reach for the water cup on his table. The arm moved, but his hand didn't grip. He tried again. Nothing. His face crumpled. Hey, I said quickly. Hey, it's okay. It's still healing. Give it time. What if it doesn't work again? His voice cracked. Jen, I'm a carpenter. My hands are my livelihood. If I can't... You will. The doctor said. The doctor said maybe. Maybe I'll regain function. Maybe I won't. I had no answer. I just held his left hand and tried not to think about the future we'd planned. Chris building things, growing his business, eventually teaching our kids how to use tools, and how much of it depended on two working arms. I met Ryan Torres in week 3. He came to the hospital to take my statement about the fire. I agreed to meet him in the cafeteria, needing a break from the ICU, from the smell, from the monitors beeping. Ryan was 31, tall, with dark hair graying at the temples and tired eyes. He wore business casual and carried a tablet. Ms. Martinez, I'm Ryan Torres with Portland Fire Bureau. I'm the investigator assigned to your case. He shook my hand. How's Chris doing? Stable. I sat down, wrapped my hands around a coffee I didn't want. When can you tell us what happened? That's actually what I wanted to discuss. He pulled up photos on his tablet. The fire originated in the attic bathroom, specifically in the wall behind the outlet near the mirror. My stomach dropped. The outlet was original to the house, 1920s wiring, never updated. When you plugged in your curling iron that evening, the outlet overloaded. The wiring overheated, ignited the insulation in the wall, and spread from there. I stared at the photo of the blackened outlet, the melted plastic of my curling iron still visible. It's my fault, I whispered. No. Ryan's voice was firm. It's equipment failure. That outlet should have been replaced decades ago. Old houses have old wiring. This is exactly why we have building codes now. But I left it plugged in. Chris told me that outlet was questionable. He said he'd rewire it when he had time. I knew it was risky and Ms. Martinez, Jenna, listen to me. Ryan leaned forward. I've investigated hundreds of fires. Accidents happen. Equipment fails. If you want to assign blame, blame the previous owners who never updated the electrical. Blame the inspector who should have caught it. But don't blame yourself for using an outlet that was installed in your home. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him. Does Chris know? I asked. That it was my curling iron? I haven't interviewed him yet. Given his condition, I can wait until he's recovered more. Ryan hesitated. But yes, I'll need to include it in the report. He'll know it's my fault. He'll know it was an accident. We talked for another 20 minutes. Ryan explained the insurance process, what documentation we'd need, how long until the house could be assessed. He was professional but kind. When I started crying, thinking about Baxter, about Chris's burns, about the house, he handed me napkins and waited patiently. You're handling this remarkably well, he said as we stood to leave. I laughed bitterly. I'm really not. You're here every day. You're dealing with insurance and investigators while your boyfriend's in ICU. You're stronger than you think. It was the first kind thing anyone had said to me that felt true. Everyone else's sympathy felt like accusation. Poor Jenna, whose carelessness cost everything. Ryan just saw someone trying her best. Thank you, I managed. He gave me his card. Call if you have questions. Anytime. Chris's infection happened in week 5. The skin graft on his arm wasn't tagging properly. His temperature spiked to 103. They rushed him back into surgery, debrided more tissue, started him on aggressive antibiotics. If this doesn't work, we may need to consider amputation, the doctor told his parents and me. The infection's spreading. I sat in the surgical waiting room, numb. This couldn't be happening. Chris could lose his right arm, his working arm. My phone buzzed. A text from Ryan Torres. Got the insurance paperwork filed. They're sending adjusters next week. How's Chris? I stared at the message. We'd been texting periodically since that first meeting. Updates on the investigation. Questions about documentation. But this felt different, personal. I typed back. He has an infection. They're talking about amputation. 3 dots appeared. Then, Jesus, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? Was I okay? I didn't know how to answer that. I don't know how much more of this I can handle, I typed. Then deleted it. Then typed it again and sent it. His response came immediately. Do you want company? I can bring coffee. Just sit with you. I should have said no. I knew I should have said no. But the thought of sitting alone in that waiting room, imagining Chris waking up, missing an arm, imagining his face when he realized, yes, please. Ryan arrived 30 minutes later with 2 coffees and a presence that felt steady. He sat with me for 4 hours while Chris was in surgery. We didn't talk much. Sometimes he told me about other cases he'd worked on, stories that ended well, reminding me that people survive terrible things. Sometimes we just sat in silence. When the doctor came out, the debridement was successful. We're cautiously optimistic. I broke down completely. Ryan let me cry into his shoulder in a hospital waiting room, his hand steady on my back. He's going to be okay, Ryan said quietly. You both are. I wanted to believe him. After that, we texted every day. Nothing inappropriate. Just checking in. He'd ask how Chris was doing. I'd update him. He'd tell me about the investigation progress. I'd ask questions about what we needed to do next. But sometimes, late at night, when Chris was sedated and I was alone in our temporary apartment, a friend's place we were borrowing, the text would drift into something else. Ryan, how are you doing? Not Chris. You. Me. Tired, scared, guilty. Ryan, you're allowed to struggle with this. It doesn't make you a bad person. Me. It feels like it does. Ryan, you're human, Jenna. This is an impossible situation. Give yourself some grace. He was the only person who acknowledged that this was hard for me too. Everyone else, Chris's family, my family, our friends, focused on Chris. Of course they did. He was the injured one. He was the victim. But I was drowning, and no one seemed to notice except Ryan. Chris came home in week 9. Home was a rental apartment we'd found in Northeast Portland, $1,650 a month for a soulless 2-bedroom with beige carpet and a kitchen that smelled like old grease. The insurance company was covering it while they processed our claim. Chris could walk, shower with assistance, dress himself mostly, but his right arm was still largely useless. He could move it, could feel sensation, but couldn't grip properly. The scarring was thick and red and angry looking. The doctors said it would fade over time, maybe become less noticeable, but it would never disappear. His face had healed better than expected. The right side had scarring along his cheekbone and forehead, but it wasn't as severe as they'd initially thought. He looked like himself still, just different, harder. I know, I look like a monster, he said the first night in the apartment, staring at himself in the bathroom mirror. You don't. Chris, you look like someone who's healing. I look like a freak. Stop. I put my arms around him from behind, careful of his tender back. You look like a hero. You ran into a burning building 3 times. That's what I see. He didn't respond, just stared at his reflection with something like hatred. The next weeks were brutal. Chris couldn't work, couldn't grip tools, couldn't lift materials, couldn't do any of the physical labor his business required. His employees were managing, but how long could that last? He had disability insurance, but it didn't cover everything. Money was getting tight, and he needed help with buttons, with cutting food, with washing his back, with everything. I became his caregiver. Wake up, help him dress, go to work, come home, make dinner he could eat with one hand, take him to physical therapy, watch him grunt through exercise that left him sweating and shaking, come home, help him shower, put him to bed, do it again. My entire life became Chris's recovery. I told myself I was being supportive. I told myself this was what love looked like. For better or worse, in sickness and in health, we weren't married yet, but the promises were the same. But inside, quietly, a voice was screaming, I'm 24. I'm 24 years old, and this is my life now. This is what the next year looks like. Maybe longer. Maybe forever if his arm doesn't improve. This is it. I hated that voice. I hated myself for having it. But it was there. Ryan came to the apartment in week 10. I've got the final report ready, he said on the phone. I can email it, or if you want me to walk you through it in person, I'm happy to drop by. Chris was napping. The pain meds made him drowsy, so I said yes. Ryan arrived at 2 p.m. with a folder and the same kind eyes I remembered. We sat at the kitchen table, and he went through the report page by page. Origin of fire, cause, timeline, estimated damages. $425,000 to the structure, he read. Contents estimated at $75,000. Total loss. Our house. Our beautiful house that Chris had renovated with his own hands. Gone. The insurance should cover most of it, Ryan continued, minus your deductible. But these things take time to process. I nodded, not really listening. I was staring at the section labeled Cause of Fire, Electrical Failure Due to Overloaded Outlet, Resident's Curling Iron Left Plugged In. Everyone's going to know it was my fault. Jenna. Ryan closed the folder. Equipment failed. That's what caused the fire, not you. But I made a normal mistake that should have been harmless. The previous owner's failure to update wiring caused this fire, not you. I started crying. Again. I'd cried so much in the past 10 weeks I was surprised I had tears left. Ryan moved his chair closer, not touching, but present. How are you holding up? I'm not. The words came out before I could stop them. I'm not holding up. I'm drowning. Chris needs me for everything, and I love him. I do. But I don't know how much longer I can do this. I don't know how to be what he needs. You're doing everything you can. It's not enough. It's never enough. He's depressed and in pain and angry, and I'm the reason. Every time he looks at his arm, he's seeing my mistake. He's seeing a reminder of his choice to save things that mattered to you. Things that don't matter. Ryan, they don't matter. I'd burn every photo album, every piece of jewelry, every belonging I have if it meant Chris never went into that house. I was sobbing now. He ran in 3 times. 3 times. Baxter was already dead. The ring and albums aren't worth what he lost. And he doesn't even blame me. That makes it worse. He should hate me. Ryan was quiet for a moment. Then, what do you need? Such a simple question. What did I need? I needed Chris to be okay. I needed to not feel guilty every waking moment. I needed to not be 24 and living like I was 60, caretaking someone through a recovery that had no end in sight. I needed someone to see me, not just Chris's brave girlfriend. I don't know, I whispered. Ryan reached across the table and took my hand. Just held it. Nothing more. But it felt like more. You're allowed to struggle, he said quietly. You're allowed to need support too. This isn't just happening to Chris, it's happening to you. It was the first time anyone had acknowledged that. We sat there for a long moment, his hand on mine, and something shifted. Something I should have recognized, should have stopped. Chris's voice from the bedroom. Jen, you there? I pulled my hand back quickly. In the kitchen, Ryan brought the report. Chris appeared in the doorway, moving slowly, his right arm hanging useless at his side. He looked at Ryan, at me, at the space between us. Hey, man, Ryan said, standing. Good to finally meet you. I've heard a lot about your recovery. They shook hands, left hands, awkwardly. Chris's expression was unreadable. After Ryan left, Chris said, He seems nice. He's been helpful with the insurance stuff. Right. Chris moved to the couch, lowered himself carefully. You two friends now? He's been a good resource. Chris just nodded, but I saw something in his eyes. Not suspicion exactly, just awareness. That should have been my warning. It happened in the week 11. Chris had physical therapy on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. 3 hours of exercises designed to improve function in his arm. I usually work during those sessions. My boss had been incredibly understanding, letting me adjust my schedule. That Thursday I came home early, called in sick. I told myself I was tired, needed a break, just needed a few hours to myself. Ryan texted around noon. How's your day? Me. Took the afternoon off. Chris is at PT. Ryan. Want company? I've got those insurance forms you need to sign. He could have emailed them. We both knew he could have emailed them. Sure, come by. He arrived 20 minutes later. No folder, no forms. We both knew why he was really there. How are you? He asked, standing in the doorway like he wasn't sure he should come in. Surviving? Jenna, come in, please. He did. We sat on the couch, the same couch where I sat with Chris every evening, helping him through his medication routine. The same couch where Chris struggled to grip the remote control, frustrated and angry at his limitations. This is probably inappropriate, Ryan said after a moment. Probably. I should go. You should. Neither of us moved. I can't stop thinking about you, Ryan said quietly. I know that's wrong. I know the circumstances are, but I can't. I looked at him. This man who'd been kind to me, who'd seen me as a person, not just Chris's caregiver, who made me feel like I was more than just walking guilt. I should have told him to leave. I should have been stronger. Instead, I kissed him. It happened fast after that. The kind of fast that doesn't leave room for thinking, for considering consequences. We moved to the bedroom, not the master bedroom where Chris and I slept, but the spare room. Like that made it better. Like there was a version of this that was acceptable. Afterward, lying there, all I could think was, Chris is at the physical therapy, learning to grip objects again, and I'm here. I should go, Ryan said, already dressing. Yeah. He paused at the door. Jenna, this. Don't. I couldn't hear whatever rationalization he was about to offer. Just go. He left. I lay there for 20 minutes staring at the ceiling before I got up and showered, changed the sheets, erased the evidence. Chris came home an hour later, exhausted and frustrated. Couldn't get my fingers to close around the tennis ball today. Couldn't even grip a fucking tennis ball. I made him dinner, helped him cut his chicken, watched TV with him, went to bed beside him, and hated myself. It happened again the following Thursday, and the Thursday after that. I told myself I would stop. Every time Chris looked at me with trust in his eyes, every time he thanked me for helping him dress, every time he talked about when I'm better and once we rebuild, I told myself I'd end it. But when Thursday came, when Ryan texted, I said yes. It wasn't about Ryan, really. He was kind and available and uncomplicated. He didn't need help buttoning his shirt. He didn't wake up in pain. He didn't have scars that reminded me of my mistakes. Being with Ryan let me pretend I was still just Jenna, still 24, still capable of feeling something other than guilt. I knew it was wrong. God, I knew. I'd lie next to Chris at night, listening to him breathe and think, you ran into a burning building 3 times for me, and this is how I repay you. But knowing it was wrong didn't make me stop. Ryan started developing feelings. I could tell. He'd text between our Thursdays, thinking about you. Wish I could see you. And I'd keep him at arm's length. This wasn't a relationship. I didn't even know what this was. We should talk about this, Ryan said one Thursday in week 13. About what we're doing. There's nothing to talk about. Jenna, Chris is healing. Eventually, I gestured between us, ends. You know that. His face fell. So I'm just a distraction? Wasn't he? Wasn't that all this was? I don't know what you are, I said honestly. I just know I can't think beyond next week. We argued. He wanted more clarity. I couldn't give it. Eventually, he left angry. I told myself it was better this way. Let him be mad. Let it end. But the next Thursday, he texted anyway. And I said yes anyway. The final investigation meeting was scheduled for week 14. Ryan, Chris, me, and an insurance adjuster. All meeting at our apartment to go over the final report and settlement offer. The insurance company was offering $380,000, less than we'd hoped, but enough. Chris had been improving. His arm had more function now, could grip light objects, could lift moderate weight. The doctors were pleased. He was talking about going back to work soon, maybe starting with consulting, working his way back to hands-on carpentry. Things are looking up, he'd said that morning, managing to button his own shirt for the first time. His face when he did it, pure joy, nearly broke me. Ryan arrived first, professional in a suit. He barely looked at me. Chris, Jenna, thanks for having us. The adjuster arrived. We sat around the kitchen table. Ryan went through the report, explained the findings, answered questions. He was competent and distant, but there was energy between us. I could feel it, and I could see Chris noticing. The way Ryan didn't quite look at me, the way I didn't quite look at him, the awkwardness that shouldn't exist between an investigator and a victim of the fire. When Ryan and the adjuster left, Chris stood at the door for a long moment after closing it. How long? He asked quietly. My stomach dropped. What? How long have you been fucking the fire investigator? I couldn't speak. Couldn't move. Chris turned to face me, his scarred face, his damaged arm, his eyes full of something worse than anger, resignation. How long? Chris, don't lie to me, please. You've done enough. Don't lie. I sat down at the table because my leg wouldn't hold me. 3 weeks. It's been 3 weeks. He nodded slowly, like this confirmed something he'd suspected. While I was at PT? Yes. While I was learning to grip a tennis ball, you were with him. I'm sorry. Chris laughed. It was hollow and broken. You're sorry. You're sorry. He moved to the couch, sat down heavily. I ran into a burning building for you, Jenna. 3 times. I know. I lost my career, my face, my arm. I still can't make a proper fist with my right hand. Do you know what that means for a carpenter? I know. I saved your grandmother's ring, those photo albums you kept talking about. I went back for Baxter, even though he was probably already dead because you were sobbing about him. And I'd do it again. Even knowing this is how you'd repay me, I'd do it again. Tears were streaming down my face. Chris, was it worth it? He looked at me with those brown eyes I'd loved for 5 years. Was he worth throwing this away? No, he wasn't. Then why? I don't know. I couldn't handle it. You needed me for everything, and I felt so guilty, and I was drowning. And he made me feel like I was still me, still just Jenna, not your caretaker or the person who caused the fire or. So you fucked him. I had no answer. Chris was quiet for a long time. Then, I need you to leave. Chris, please, we can. Leave, Jenna, tonight. Pack your things and go. Where am I supposed to? I don't know. Ryan's place, maybe? Since you two are so close. His voice broke. Just get out. Please, I can't look at you right now. I packed a bag. Chris sat on the couch the entire time, staring at nothing. When I finished, I stood in the doorway. I'm so sorry, I whispered. He didn't respond. Didn't look at me. I left. That was 4 months ago. I'm sitting in my new condo now, a studio in southeast Portland, $1,400 a month, purchased with my half of the insurance settlement. It's nice enough, modern, clean, nothing like the house Chris and I bought together. Ryan ended things immediately. This was a mistake. I'm sorry. This got too complicated. He wouldn't take my calls after that, professional to the end. Chris moved in with his brother for a few weeks, then got his own place once the insurance money came through. I know this from social media, which I check obsessively even though I shouldn't. His Instagram shows his recovery. Photos of his arm, scarred but functional. Him holding tools again, working on small projects. The smile in those photos doesn't reach his eyes, but it's there. 3 weeks ago, a new person started appearing in his photos. A woman named Michelle, brunette, pretty, holding his scarred hand in one photo. The comments are full of support. You deserve happiness. Lucky girl. Glad you found someone who appreciates you. One comment from his brother. She knows what you did during the fire, thinks you're a hero because you are. I close Instagram and stare at my condo, at the items surrounding me that Chris saved. My grandmother's ring sitting in its velvet box in my drawer, unwearable now. The photo album still unopened because looking at pictures of us feels like torture. I'm 25 now, single, living alone. My coworkers know something happened with Chris, but not what. My friends, the ones who stayed, ask if I'm okay. I say yes, I'm not. Sometimes I use my curling iron and think about the fire, about the outlet, about Chris running into the flames while I stood in the yard screaming, about how someone loved me enough to risk everything, and I repaid him by sleeping with the man investigating the fire I caused. There is no redemption arc here, no lesson learned that makes this okay, no growth that justifies what I did. I destroyed a good person on the worst day of his life. Or no, I destroyed a good person during his months long recovery from the worst day of his life. That might be worse. Chris deserved better. He deserved someone who could handle the hard times, someone who wouldn't break under the pressure of guilt and caretaking, someone who wouldn't betray him while he was learning to grip a fucking tennis ball. He found that person now, apparently. Michelle, who looks at him like he's a hero instead of a burden. And I'm here, 25, alone, using the curling iron that started the fire that ended everything. I made my choice. I chose Ryan, chose escape, chose the easy path, chose myself, and I have to live with that now. I destroyed a man who ran into a burning building 3 times for me. That's who I am. That's who I'll always be.